Okay, going to walk through the answers for exam number 2. Easiest thing to do with problems like this, let's get rid of that denominator to make it look a little nicer. Let's multiply everything by 6 on this side, multiply everything by 6 on this side. So what do you get? 6 times 1, 6x, we get x plus 12, 2 times 6, equals, let's see, 6 times 2/3, well, 6 times 2/3 is 6 divided by 3 times 2, or 4x, and minus 6. Now it's a little easier to look at. Let's now get the x's on one side by themselves, get the other numbers on one side by themselves. So let's subtract x from both sides, and let's add 6 to both sides. So the x's cancel out here on this side, the 6's cancel out on this side, and what do we get? We get 6 equals 3x. Oh, sorry, 18 equals 3x. What am I talking about? 18 equals 3x. And then we get, divide by 3, we get 6 equals x. I forgot to do the plus 6 there. Wait a minute, how did I get 6 equals 3? It's a plus 6. That's a minus x, gives us 3x. Alright. So 6 would be the answer for that. Alright. Now, all we're looking for is the equation here. So, current population, 41,000. We're losing average 225 people per year. How many years will it take for the population to decrease to this? So we're looking at a linear problem, right? We're at 41,000. It's going down by 225 per year. How many years is it till we reach 36725? Well, let's put the equation in. Population is 225 people a year. Alright, so the equation we're looking for, something to do with population and number of years. So let's see here. We'll say our final population, 36,725, equals 41,000 to start with, minus 225 people per year. Per year, or 225 times the number of years. So at the 0 year, this is 0. At 1 year, it's 225 less. Another year, 225 times however many years pass. Okay, so there's our equation. 36725 equals 41,000 minus 225. Well, now to solve it, you can use a calculator, but let's write it down here. Let's see. We got a negative sign here, so let's add 225y to both sides. And let's subtract 36,725 from both sides. That cancels out the 36,725, leaving the 225y equal to 41,000 minus 36,725. Well, let's do that subtraction. 10 minus 5 is 5. That becomes a 9 minus 2, 7. 9 minus 7 gives us 2. Borrow the 1, and we get 10 minus 6 equals 4. 4275. And what happened to our y? Yeah, we're still multiplying y. Now, we divide by 225. Y equals 4275 divided by 225. All right, let's pop up our calculator. And let's see here, we get 4275 divided by 225. 19 years would be the answer. 19 years. I called it Y because I like Y being years. Now, did they say I had to use X? Yes, they did. I wasn't paying attention to that, so I should have put X here. I like Y because that's the number of years. So I messed up with the equation. The equation should be 36,725 equals 41,000 minus 225x, because they said I had to use X. That's my equation. And I solved it for Y, but I will just replace Y with X, and that equals 19 from my calculator. So X equals 19. We earn monthly salary plus that Christmas bonus. Well, what is our monthly salary in dollars? Well, let's just put it in the equation and we'll solve. Now, here I'm going to use M because they didn't say what letter to use. I'm going to say my total for the year is 82,700, and that's equal to my monthly salary times 12. That's the part that they don't say. They just said her monthly salary she earns per year. You have to see, boy, a year is 12 months. That's the part that's not as obvious. Otherwise, well, her monthly salary times 12 plus her Christmas bonus. That's going to be this year's salary. And every year's salary until she gets a raise. So what do? We solve for M by getting M by itself, by first subtracting away the 7,200 from both sides. So those go to 0, and this becomes 12 minus 7, borrow the 1, 75500 equals 12M. Well, I can solve for M by dividing both sides by 12. That becomes M. And this number becomes, well, let's let our calculator do the work for us. $75500 divided by, what was the number? 12. 6291.66. Round it up to 6291.67. Now, did they tell us how to round it? Let's see. Nearest cent. Okay, so that's 2 decimals. So, remember our number was 66 following, so round it to be 67. 6291.67. Using our calculator. $14 per CD, selling a CDs. Fixed costs are $25,000. They'll sell the CDs for $87 each. Well, let's do this one piece by piece. The total cost as a function of the number of CDs produced. Well, fixed cost $25,000, and then $14 per CD. So setup cost $25,000 plus 14 times the number of CDs. Well, my total cost would be $25,000. That's the setup cost plus the number of CDs times 14. 14, and we'll use. Did they say what variable to use? There it did say X. I would have used N for number of CDs, but they said you have to use X. So there's my equation. Remember, that just represents how many CDs. Because I do programming, generally, you think of this, that's the variable. I like it to represent a little more in my mind. I would have used C or N. But X is fine for my variable name. Now, all they asked is the formula. They didn't ask for anything else. The total revenue as a function of the number of CDs. Well, how do I figure that out? Well, they'll sell for 87 each, but I'm going to have to and that's my revenue coming in. So revenue is, we don't subtract our costs yet. We just say, how much do we get paid for all our CDs? Well, it's a simple formula. Revenue equals $87 times the number of CDs. So revenue is 87x. And that's this formula. I'm just going to leave it there because it doesn't quite fit in the box. Total profit now, what would that be? Well, it's revenue minus cost. All right, revenue minus cost. So, revenue, 87x plus 25,000 is my, actually, 87x is my revenue. I subtract 25,000 plus 14x. Or 87 minus 14. Remember, if I'm subtracting two things that together, that becomes a minus that and a minus that. 87 minus 14 would be 73. So that equals 73x minus 25,000. So that's my formula for my profit. 73x minus 25,000. Just by doing revenue minus cost. And that's something that you have to pull out of that word problem. They should have, they say revenue, total profit as a function of number of C's produced. They could have said, and by the way, profit is revenue minus cost. That's something that just, I guess they just say common sense. So here's my formula for my profit, 73x minus 25,000. Now, to break even, well, that's where my profits are equal to 0, or 73x. If it's equal to 25,000, that's where I'm just barely breaking even, and then from then on, I earned the $87 each above whatever this number is. So when 73x equals 25,000, that's when I'm breaking exactly even. So to break even, I say x is equal to 25,000 divided by 73. And they said round to the nearest number of CDs. I would round it up, but they did say round. So let's see what number we get from our calculator. 25,000 25000 divided by 73. 3472, and it does round up because it's 0.6. So 3425. Sorry. Did I do something wrong here? Did I divide by 73? $73x equals 25,000. 25,000. Let's try that. Make sure I got that right. 25,000 divided by 73 equals. There we go. I had too many. I thought, maybe sounds like a big number. Too big of a number. 342.4. Oh, they said round it, so you round it to 342. There we go. So x equals 342. My first calculation I messed up. Okay, on to the next one. Now we're solving systems of equations. They put them in nice order for me. Well, sort of. Let's see here. I need to get, let's see, I have two equations and two unknowns. can I solve for x and then do a substitution? You know what? Let's just go ahead and let's see here. I have 7x here. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and multiply this one times 7. So that becomes 7x. This becomes minus 42y. And 7 times 25 is 175. 4 times 25 is 100. 25, 50, 75. So plus 175. 42y minus 42y plus 175. Well, look at this. I add them together, and my x's go to 0, and I get minus 2y equals 25 minus 42y plus 175. Well, 25 plus 175 gives us 200. And let's add 42y to both sides. And what do I get? 42 minus 2, I get 40y equals 200. And divide by 40, y equals 200 divided by 40. And that's a little easier number. That is equal to 5. Y is equal to, well, that's y is equal to 5. Well, if I know y is equal to 5, so I know that I have y is my second variable, so 5 is a solution, is the y part of it. All I have to do is find out the x part of it. Well, let's see here. We know from this that x, let's rewrite that. We know that x equals minus 6y plus 25. Well, if y is 5, what does that give us for x? Well, let's plug in the 5 for y. That's equal to minus 30, and minus 6 times 5 plus 25 equals minus 5. Now, you could have done it the other way around. You could have solved for x and then plug x back in, knowing the value, and figure out what y is. But I found out x first because it just looked easier. Multiplying everything by 7, get them to cancel out. So I know that that's the value for x when y is 5. So minus 5, 5. So that has a solution of a point x. And we'll put parentheses around that just to indicate that that is the solution to that problem. All right, now a similar one over here. Oh, look at this. It's easy. Well, we can recognize, hey, look, I got negative 3y and a 3y. Let's just add these two together, and my y's will go away. So adding them together, I get negative 4x plus 3x. I get negative 1x. Minus 3y plus 3y, that's 0. So there's nothing there. Equals negative 7 plus 9 equals 2. There we go. Multiply by negative 1. We know that x equals negative 2. So I put negative 2 in for my known value of x. How do I figure out y? Pick either formula, plug in the negative 2 for x. So let's just do the first one. Negative 4 times a negative 2 minus 3y equals negative 7. Well, negative 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8, or is a positive 8. 8 minus 3y equals negative 7. Yeah, negative 7. Well, let's see here. We'll subtract 8 from both sides. Negative 3y equals negative 15. All right, so take away 8, take away 8. And now divide by negative 3. Well, look at that. 15 divided by 3 equals 5. Y equals 5. So negative 2, 5 is the point where these two lines cross. Now you get to choose the method here. Let's see if we can find a solution to y. Which one of these looks like we can simplify? Well, look at here. I have a factor of 2 on everything. Let's divide everything on this side by a negative 2. And that becomes 2x plus y. So I'm dividing by negative 2. Dividing that by negative 2. And I divide that by negative 2. 2x plus y equals negative 8. Well, look at that. I can solve for y. I can know that y equals negative 8 minus 2x. Subtract 2x from both sides. And look at that. Now I can substitute this for wherever I see y in either equation. I might as well go with that first one. So I know that negative 5x minus 3 times the y. Well, I'm going to substitute this. Let's put parentheses around it because we've got all the signs to worry about. Negative 8 minus 2x equals 21. Over here, I just have all x's over here. Let's just multiply out and get x by itself on one side. So negative 5x minus, now 3 times negative 3 times a negative 8. It becomes a plus 24, right? Plus 24. And a negative 3 times a negative 2 becomes a plus 6x. I'm not multiplying everything on this side by that. I'm just multiplying this part out. Well, so 21 that's still over here. Well, negative 5x plus 6x gives me an x on this side. Plus 24. Well, let's subtract the 24 from both sides. Let's simplify that. And what I get? Negative 5x plus 6x gives me an x. Get rid of the 24 over here. I get x equals minus 3. Well, what do I do now? Well, now that I know a value for x, I can substitute that in the other equation. It doesn't matter which equation, but let's just make use of that other one. Remember how that's simplified to 2x plus y equals negative 8, remember? Well, if I know x is negative 3, well, I get 2 times a negative 3 plus a y equals negative 8. Now that was that original equation that when I simplified that became 2x plus y equals negative 8. That's what that became, just factoring out the negative 2. Well, knowing what x is, so I have an x is a negative 3. What do I get for y? Let's see. That becomes negative 6 plus y equals negative 8. Add 6 to both sides, I get y equals negative 2. So the solution here is x equals negative 3, y equals negative 2. Simplify that equation. Makes it a little easier to see what y is. Substitute y in to that equation. and then solve for x, plug x back into one of them to give me y, negative 3. Okay. All right, next one, here we go. Another substitution. Anything to simplify? Well, look here. There are factors of 4 and everything. Let's simplify that. Even before going any further, let's divide by 4. I get 2y equals, well, 36 divided by 4 is 9 plus x. Uh-oh. When I add these together, the y's cancel out and the 9's cancel out. Adding these together, what do I get? X equals x. That's always going to be true for these two equations. And if you want to put it in slope-intercept form, let's just prove that. Let's see. Let's get the 2y by itself over here. Negative 2y equals negative x minus 9. Let's divide by negative 2. Y equals 1/2 x plus 9/2. Slope-intercept form for that first one. Let's put this one in slope-intercept form. 2y, let's divide by 2. Y equals 9 over 2 plus x over 2. Well, look at that. That is the exact same equation. Those are the exact same lines. So the two lines are the same. Therefore, the lines cross in many places. Infinite number of solutions. Remember how I did that? Simplified one equation, and I saw that basically, wait a minute, that gives me the same equation. Adding them together gives me an x equals x identity. Another way to do it, I get the slope-intercept form of both of them, and I see that they're the same line. So I looked at it two different ways. Method of your choice. Let's see here. Can we simplify that one? Oh, look, there's a factor of 2 there. So let's go ahead and divide by 2. And let's get rid of signs. Let's divide by negative 2. Signs are always irritating. So let's divide out by negative 2. That becomes 2x plus y equals 6 divided by negative 2 is a negative 3. Fewer signs, less confusing. Now this one, I don't see any factors because we got a 6 and a 3, so I have to leave that by ourselves. So that becomes 2x plus y equals negative 3. Well, let's see here. I've got a 2x up here, negative 6x here. I've got a y here and a negative 3y here. Well, how about we multiply this guy by 3 on both sides. What do I get? I get 6x plus 3y equals negative 9. Why did I multiply by 3? Because when I multiply that by 3, I get 6 x's that when I add it to this equation, they'll cancel out. Oh, and the 3 y's cancel out. Let's just put it right underneath to see, make that obvious. 6x plus 3y equals negative 9. And if I add these together now, two equations add together, what do I get? This becomes 0, and this becomes negative 1. So I get the equation, by adding those two together, I get 0 equals negative 1. See how these added together give me 0? 6x, negative 6x plus 6x, those come to 0. Negative 3y plus 3y, that becomes 0. 8 plus a negative 9 becomes negative 1. That can never be true, so therefore there is no solution. Okay, more practice. First of all, I look, can I simplify? Yes, there's a factor of 3. since there's a negative on, there's not a negative there, let's just divide the whole thing by 3. That becomes x minus 4y equals negative 1. Don't forget that sign. Well, this has a factor of 2. Let's do that one. I get, let's just divide by 2 because we have mixed signs. So then I get negative x plus 4y equals 1. Look what happens when I add these together. I get x's, y's cancel out, negative 1's and negative 1 cancel out. I get 0 equals 0 when I add them together. Well, this will always be true. Therefore, how many solutions do I have? Infinite solutions. If you want to put it in slope-intercept, you'll see that these are the same equation. Or another way to do it, multiply this by negative 1, and you get, both sides by negative 1, you get x minus 4y equals negative 1. I get the exact same equation, meaning I have the exact same line for top and bottom. Strategy was, look to simplify first, and it pops out that they're the same equation. And when you get the same equation, or when you get something that is always true, that tells you there's infinite solutions. If you get something that can't be true, then you know there's no solution. Now, it's a word problem. All we got to do is put that into equations and then solve it. So a plus b is 4. I just say a plus b equals 4. A minus b equals negative 6. Just add them together, and the b's cancel out. I get 2a equals 4 minus 6, negative 2. What do I know a is? Well, I know right now that a is negative 1, right? And what do I do now? Well, knowing a is negative 1, I can go back to either equation and put a negative 1 where I see an a. So I can say negative 1 plus b equals 4. That means b is equal to 5, right? I add 1 to both sides, and I get b by itself equals 5. Well, just suppose I said, well, let's try with that one. Well, if I know a is negative 1, I can say negative 1 minus b equals negative 6. Well, add 1 to both sides, I get negative b equals negative 5. Multiply negative 1, and I get, I get another, the same solution for b. So either one will give us the correct b. So b equals 5. Back to that word problem. 425 for children, 620 for adults. Total of 290 people, and the total fees were $15.92. How many children and how many adults? Well, you're given two equations here. 290 people entered the park. We have children and adults. We'll use C and A. So we know C plus A equals 292. Right? This total of 292 people came into the park, and children count as people. That's our first equation. 292 people entered the park. From that, we get that. C plus A equals 292. And I know my total fees are $15.92. And how are the fees calculated? It's 425 times the number of children plus 620, 6.2 times the number of adults equals, what did I get? $15.92. Well, this, because I have a C and an A by themselves over here, it's probably easiest to do substitution. I know C equals A minus 292. Right? Or sorry, 292 minus A. So C equals 292 minus A. 292 minus 8. Well, wherever I see a C, let's put that here, and then all I have left is A's, and I can solve for A. So I have 4.25 times 292 minus A plus 6.2 A equals 1592. And let's go ahead and use our calculator to help us out. 4.25 times 292. .25 times 292 equals 1241. All right, so I have 1241 1241 minus 4.25a plus 6.2a equals 1592. All right, again, don't panic. We got to just solve for a. Well, 6.2 minus 4.25. Let's use our calculator. 6.2 minus 4.25 gives us 1.95. All right, so that there is 1.95a. Well, 1241 plus 1.95a equals 1592. Well, let's subtract 1241 from both sides. Minus 1241. That will cancel out that. And what do I get? 1.95a equals, subtract out 1241. I get 2 minus 1 is 1. 9 minus 4 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. And now calculate for a. A equals 351 divided by 1.95. Calculator time. 351 divided by 1.95 gives us 180. And remember, that's solve for A. A represents my number of adults. So A equals 180. And this is the simplest equation. C plus A equals 292, or C equals 292 minus A, right? So I know that C equals 292 minus A, and I know A is 180. Let's do subtraction. 2, 9 minus 8 is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1. There I have calculated the number of children, 112. From knowing total people, 292, figure out one of them, the other one is just 292 minus that first one. So A plus B, the dollars of the investment, equals 8,200. Know that right off the start. And let's just say, I know that A, from that I know that A equals 8,200 minus B. What's the other equation? Well, I know that 0.13 times the first account plus 11% times the second account gives me how much interest? Gives me 1010 in that first year. There's my second equation. Now, I know A equals 8,200 minus B, so let's put that in right here. 0.13 times 8,200 minus B plus 0.11 B equals the 1010. Well, let's multiply out 8200 times 0.13. 8200 times 0.13. Oops. Times 0.13. 8200 times 0.13 equals 1066, right? So 1066 minus 0.13b plus 0.11b equals 1010. Well, minus 0.13 plus 0.11, or think of that as minus 13 hundredths plus 11 100ths, gives us minus 2 100ths b. So minus 0.02b. Well, that's what those two are, right? Let's take away 1066 from both sides. 66, what do I get? Minus 0.02b equals, what is that? 1010 minus 1066. Oh, let's subtract out 10 minus 6 is 4. Borrow the 1, get a 4. That becomes 0. Borrow the 1 from over here. That becomes a 9. 10 minus 6 gives us another 4. And that becomes a negative 1. 9 minus 1. 10. Well, what do I get? And we subtract 1066 from this side. So that goes to 0. Minus 0.02b equals, well, what's this difference? That is 1010 minus 1010 and minus another 56, or it becomes minus 56. Well, b equals minus 56 over 0.02, or 56 divided by 0.02 equals 2800. So I know B is 2800 from this right here. So B equals 2800. Now the A part is easy because I know that A plus B equals 8200. So 8200 minus 2800 will give us whatever A is, right? Because A is 8200 minus B. Well, do subtraction. 12 minus 8 gives us 4. 7 minus 2 gives us 5. 5400. Now they're going to get easier for a few things here. Remember the factoring? Well, we can use our two numbers. We know that two numbers when multiplied together are going to give us 21. When they added together, they're going to give us a minus 10. Well, what are the factors of 21? 1 times 21. There's no odd number. 3 times 7. Oh, look. Added together, a negative 3 times a negative 7 gives us 21. Added negative 3 and negative 7, we get negative 10. So negative 3 and a negative 7. Well, what do I do with that? Well, I know that the factoring is going to look like this. X plus, X minus 3 and X minus 7. Well, let's just do the check. That becomes X squared, first, X squared, minus 7X, minus another 3X, that gives us negative 10X, plus 20, plus negative 3 times negative 7, plus 29. So, factoring is X minus 3, X minus 7. Well, this one's just a little bit different. I can't factor out the 2. I could use a quadratic, or I could say, wait a minute, remember the slide and divide? Slide the 2 over to here, and I get x squared minus 9x plus 20. Well, let's do that factoring. I get a 2 multiplied, they give me 20. Added together, they give me negative 9. Well, 20 is 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3, 4 times 5. Oh, 4 and 5 added give me 9. Negative 4, negative 5 added give me 9. So minus 4 minus 5. Okay, so I know that that will factor out to be x minus 4 times x minus 5. But remember, we slid over the 2, so we have to divide out the 2. And what do we get? Well, x minus 2. I can bring the x in front of the 2 in front of the x. That becomes 2x minus 5. So that factors out to be x minus 2 times 2x minus 5. Do that again. It looks like it's another slide and divide here. Let's just work it through. I'm not sure why the carrots came in on this one, but we can figure that out. It means it's 10x squared. That means minus 11x plus 3. Well, let's write it out. 10x squared minus 11x plus 3. Nothing to factor out, so let's do the slide and divide. X squared minus 11x. This 10 slides over to here, multiplies the 3 plus 30. Well, two numbers multiplied gives us 30. Added gives us negative 11. Well, 1 times 30. 2 times 15. 3 times 10. 4, no factor, 5 times 6. Oop, 5 and 6 add together. Put negatives in front of both of them. And that factors to x minus 5 times x minus 6. But remember, we slid over the 10. Let's divide out by 10. And what do I get? That factors out to be x minus 1/2 times x minus 3/5. I can turn that into 2x minus 1. That changes x turned into 5x minus 3. So this becomes 2x minus 1, 5x minus 3. The slide and divide is one of my favorites. Let's do that same thing here. The numbers get a little bigger, but don't panic. Because you can recognize that's 49 x squared minus 121. Now this is where having your squared tables memorized is very helpful. 10 times 10 is 100. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. Oh, look at that. That's a difference of squares. And remember, when you see difference of squares, you know that that's going to be 7 squared x squared minus 11 squared, right? 7 squared x squared minus 11 squared. When I see that, I know that that's equal to 7x minus 11 times 7x plus 11. Recognize the difference of squares. Do you think it might happen here? I'm not so sure. Let's find out. Come over here. Let's write it out normally. I don't know why that came out funny. It's a z. Z squared plus 17 plus 66. Well, that goes back to our regular. Two numbers multiplied gives us 66. Added together gives us 17. Well, 66 is 1 times 66. 2 times 33. 3 times 11 times 2, right? 3 times 22. Yeah, 3 times 22. 4. Is there a factor of 4? Times, let's see, 66 by 2, there's not a factor of 4, 5, 6 times 11! And look at that. 6 and 11 add together give us 17, multiplied 66. So that becomes x plus 6, x plus 11. Now this one, don't worry about multiplying out. Remember, if that whole part equals 0, that means either that part equals 0 or that part equals 0 because they're being multiplied together. Well, to make that equal 0, x has to be 1. Or to make that part equal 0, x can be 6. That's what would make that multiplying the two equal to 0. Now let's write it out more simply. 3x squared equals 10x plus 8. Solve the equation, fully simplify the answer. Let's see, nothing to factor out. Well, it looks like they want us to just do the quadratic formula, or I suppose we could try to factor it out. Either way might work. Let's see what this could do. Let's just try the factoring. 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Right, we subtract this from both sides. That gives me 0. I could crank in this quadratic formula, or maybe I could factor it out. Let's just try that for fun. Let's do this slide and divide. Slide the 3 over to here. I get x squared minus 10x minus 24 equals 0. Could we factor that? Let's see. Two numbers multiplied give us negative 24. Added together give us a negative 10. Well, 24 is, let me put it up here, 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Ooh, look at that. 4 and 6 add together give us 10. Oh, but it's the difference. Oh, look, I already had the difference there. Minus 12 plus 2. Well, slide and divide. Let's refactor that to x minus 12 times x plus 2. Remember what we slid over was the 3, so let's divide that by 3. This becomes x minus 12 thirds, or x minus 4. This becomes Well, x plus 2/3, or x equals negative 2/3 to give that 0, or 3x plus 2. Either way, x being 2/3 will make that 0, x being 4 will make that 0, so therefore my answers are 4 and negative 2/3. Right? X is equal to negative 2/3 makes that come out to be 0. X equals 4 makes that come out to be 0. All right, this time they did say quadratic formula, so let's write that out carefully. Minus 25 5x squared minus 10x plus 3 equals 0. X is equal to negative b, that's 10, plus or minus square root of b squared, I can already get b squared, 100, minus 4 times a, don't forget that sign, times negative 25, times c, that's 3, all over 2a, which is negative 50. Well, minus 4 times a minus 25, that's 100, that's plus 300, right? 4 times 25 is 100, times 3 is 300. So inside of here becomes 1 plus 100 plus 300, or plus or minus square root of 400. Wow, square root of 400, well, it's 4 times 100, which is 2. The square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 100 is 10, or plus or minus 20. Well, I'll get my answer. Let's factor out the 10 everything, because I got 20 and a 10 and a 50. So that becomes 1 plus or minus 2 all over negative 5. See how we factored out 10? We basically cut off the 0. Well, 1 plus 2 over negative 5 is negative 3/5. 1 minus 2 over negative 5 is negative 1 over negative 5, or 1/5. Those are our two x's using the quadratic formula. Now this is just, again, it came out funky, but what we're saying is 8 minus square root of 192, the whole thing, divided by 4. No decimals, we're doing exact form. Well, 192, let's look, what would that be? Let's see, that's 96 times 2, or, let's see, 96 is 48 times 2. Well, 48 is 24 times 2. And that's 12 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? And that's 4 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, or sorry, 4 times 3, or 3 times 4 times 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 times 2 is 4. Well, all of these are 2's when I take the square root of that, and I'm left with the square root of 3. So remember, I'm taking the square root of all that stuff, 2 times 2 times 2, right? Because the 4 is 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared. The 3 is left by itself, and 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8. So that becomes 8 square root of 3. All to say that this is 8 plus or minus, actually, no, they just said give us the 8 minus part. Forgot that they were asking what something different than we're doing the quadratic. It's just 8 minus 192 over 4. So that becomes 8 minus 8 square root of 3 all over 4. Well, 4s can divide out, so I get 2 minus 2 square root of 3. Not even a quadratic formula, just recognizing that this number in here is 3 times 4 times 4 times 4. By dividing by 2 a bunch of times and then realizing, oh, there's 6 2's, multiplying all that out, or 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared, that becomes the square root of 2 times 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared is 8. Square root of 3, can't simplify that any further. Similar equations. That becomes, let's see, what do we have? X squared equals 2x. Solve the equation. Well, when x is 0, I get 0 equals 0. So I know x can be 0 to solve all that. Well, if I factor out the x except for when x is 0, what do I get? X divided out by x. X equals 2. So when x is 0, that comes out 0 equals 0. Divide by x. And of course, for all x's except when x is 0, it's defined. Well, I already said, well, if x is 0, I get equality. The other possible is x is 2. Okay, rectangular garden. Draw the picture. I have the length, and I have length minus 6 for the width. L minus 6. Minus 6. And my total area is 40 square feet. Well, length times width gives us our area. So L times L minus 6, what does it give us? 40. Or L squared minus 6L minus 40 equals 0. Now I could factor this. Let's factor out a 2 first though. Oh no, we got a 1 here, so we can just factor out. We know that two numbers multiplied together gives minus 40. Added together gives us a minus 6. Well, 40 is 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 3 times 10, what is it? 3? No, not 2 times 10. 4 times 10. There is no factor of 3. Oh, look at that. 10 minus 4 gives us 6. So, 4 negative 10 will give us what? That'll give us that factor. So we can factor this out to be L plus 4 times L minus 10. Well, a length of negative 4 would make that to be 0, but that doesn't make any sense. But a length of 10 looks like that will give us an answer. And let's just see. Length 10 times 10 minus 6, 4, gives us area 40. So length is 10, width is 10 minus 6, 4. So there, I could have used the quadratic, but I decided, let's just see if I can factor that. And it came out a little easier. I've got a right triangle. Right triangle, something like that. 7 feet longer than the short leg. So we'll call this x. We'll call this x plus 7, right? That's 7 feet longer. We know that this is 13. Well, from my Pythagorean theorem, we know that that squared plus that squared, square root of, gives us, or that squared plus that squared gives us that squared. I know that x squared plus x plus 7 squared equals 13 squared, or 169. And my square table is memorized. Well, all I have to do is multiply out. Did it say I have to use a quadratic formula? Well, let's just see what I get. I get x squared plus x squared plus 7x plus another 7x plus a 49. 49 plus 49 gives us 169. Well, let's get it in quadratic formula format. That becomes 2x squared plus 14x and let's see, 49 minus 169. Well, we go down 49 and another 120, or minus 120 equals 0. Well, look at that. I can factor out a 2. X squared plus 7x minus 60 equals 0. I could do the quadratic, but it didn't say I had to. I can factor this. So again, two numbers multiplied give us minus 60. Added together give us 7. Well, 60 is 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12. Ooh, the difference is 7 there. So 12 minus 5, and therefore I have, that's equal to x plus 12 times x minus 5. Well, a length of negative 12 doesn't make sense, so a length of 5 makes sense. And the other length is x plus 7 or 12. So you could do the quadratic, or you could say, factoring, I've got pretty good at that. I get the equation to here, do the factoring. Or you could say, get the equation to here, crank it in the quadratic form. All right, now to relax our brain a little bit, this should be a little easier. It has a minimum of what? Negative 1 at x equals negative 4. Increasing from negative 4 to infinity. But it never hits infinity, never hits negative 4. Decreasing from negative infinity up to negative 4. Not touching either one. Remember, I don't know why let's go to that. Y equals x squared minus 12x plus 32. Remember, the vertex is negative b over 2a. Because it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4c over 2a. So that's going to be the center of our parabola. And negative b is 12 over 2 or 6. Vertex is at, well, we know it's an x of 6. But what is our y? Well, we have to plug 6 in there. To get our y, we get 6 squared, 36, minus 12 times 6, plus 32. or 36 minus 72 plus 32, or 68 minus 72 is minus 4. So y of minus 4. The y-intercept, that's the easy part. When x is 0, I get C, 32. Now we have to set that equal to 0. Well, again, it is a fairly simple equation. It doesn't say I had to do square root or the quadratic, so let's just do the factor. 32, negative 12. 32 is 1 times 32. 2 times 16. There's no factor 3. 4 times 8. Oh, look at that. 4 and 8. I have a negative 4 and a negative 8. Multiplied, give me 32. Added, give me negative 12. So I know that's going to factor to x minus 4 times x minus 8. And for that to be 0, or when it crosses the x-intercept, that is 0 or that is 0. So it's at values of either 4 or 8. Plug in the quadratic formula, I'll get the same answer. So part of the puzzle here is try the easy ones first. And if it looks like you could factor it, if you can do factoring quicker, then it might be faster. So you have x squared plus 4x minus 14. F of negative 1. Well, negative 1 squared plus 4 times negative 1 minus 14. Well, negative 1 squared is 1 minus 4 minus 14, or 1 minus 18, or negative 17. The vertex, remember, it's negative b over 2a equals negative 4 over 2a, 2 equals negative 2. That is for the value of x. Well, what do I find out for y? You got to plug it in. Negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 14 gives us 4 plus 8 minus 14, or 12 minus 14, or negative 2. I'm looking at the right one. He gave me a negative. How did they get negative 18? I must have messed up. Let's try that again. Vertex, negative b over 2a. Let's do that again. Negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 minus 14. That's 4 minus 8 minus 14. There we go. Get that. Right there, I messed up on my sign. 4 minus 22, or minus 18. The y-intercept, remember, that is just where x is 0, well, or negative 14. And finally, the last problem. Same problem. I have a parabola for x squared minus 6x plus 7. Nothing to factor out. let's just find f of negative 3. Well, 4 times negative 3 squared minus 6 times a negative 3 plus 7. Multiply it out. 4 times 9 is 36. Minus 6 times negative 3 becomes a plus 18. Plus 7 gives us I didn't see, I missed that sign there, right there. So negative 36 plus 18 plus 7 gives us, well, negative 36 plus 25, or a negative 11. That one little sign I missed, letter too small for my old eyes. The vertex, remember, negative b over 2a. Negative b is 6. A is negative 4, right? Negative b is negative and negative 6. 2a is negative 8. Or negative 3/4. If you want to do 0.75, that'll be fine, but that's the value of x, negative 3/4. Now we have to put that into x squared, or into the formula. So negative 4 times negative 3/4 squared minus a 6 times negative 3/4 plus 7. Well, what does that equal to? That equals to, well, I can factor out a negative 4 and get a 9/4. 4 times negative 3 times negative 3 times over 4 times 4. One of the 4's cancels out. So that becomes, think of that as negative 3/4 times negative 3/4. One of those 4's canceled out. That becomes a 9/4. And with the negative sign carries out. So that becomes negative 9/4 plus 18/4. 6 times 3, 18. Plus, well, 7 is 28/4. Now we have common denominators. That becomes 9 plus 28, or 37/4. Or 9 and 1/4. If you want to do 37 divided by 4 is 9, remainder 1/4. We'll call that 9 and 1/4. I'm happy with 37/4, but 9 and 1/4 look pretty good too. So I'll do 37/4. The y-intercept, again, when x is 0, I get a 7. Now, let's see, nothing to factor out. Let's just do this last one. Let's crank it through the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b, negative negative 6, or 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Let's go ahead and multiply it out. 36 minus 4ac minus 4 times negative 4 times 7 all over 2a, or negative 8. Well, that's just, looks like this is going to be calculator time for that one. So that 36, that's the square root of 36 plus 16 times 7, which is 10 times 7 plus 6 times 7, or 10 times 7 plus 42, 70 plus 42, which is 112. 36 plus 112 gives us 148. Square root of 148 I don't think comes out to be a real even number, so it's 6 plus square root of 148 all over negative 8. Or 6 minus 148. Sorry, square root of 148 all over negative 8. Plug it into our calculator, and we get, let's go ahead and do our calculator. 6 plus square root of 148 over negative 8. Let's do that. Let's do the 148 square root of first. So 148 square root of, alright, you got 12.16 plus 6 divided by negative 8. So plus 6 equals divided by 8 equals 2.27. But it's a negative, right? Because I have a negative sign. Negative 2.27. And now let's do 6 minus square root of 148 over negative 8. Let's do the 148 square root of first. 148 square root of negative, right? And now add to 6 plus 6 equals, and now what do you divide by? Divide by the negative 8. Divided by 8, and I'll remember the sign this time, and I get equal to 0.77. That one we just crank through with our calculator. And we are done. Longer than we wanted to.